Hey everyone, this is Joe, KF7MIX, and this is an introduction video to JS8 Spotter version 1.17. You can download that on kf7mix.com. Up here on the screen right now is just kind of how this video is going to roll. This video is meant to replace all the training videos. I figure those are getting kind of old. Now if you want something that's longer, a little more in-depth, you can still view those. They'll still be available. But this will also give you kind of an overview of all the main functions of the software in one video. Now this is not going to be a short video, so I will spend a few minutes on each of these things. But of course, hey, you've got fast forward, you've got YouTube's ability to double my speed and all that. So do what you want with it, and we'll go ahead and get started. So again, brief overview of what JS8 Spotter is. If you don't know what JS8 Call is, then this is probably not the video that you need to watch first. I'm assuming anyone that uses JS8 Spotter is already familiar with JS8 Call. Again, if you need help with that, go to js8call.com and watch some of the videos there. But let's jump into what Spotter is. So if you use Spotter, and I'm going to go ahead and open up a brand new version of Spotter with no database to start out with. If you do use if you do use JS8 Call, then you're aware of some of the shortcomings that it has. For example, in the band activity pane on the left, there's a lot going on. That's not really a shortcoming, but you know, it can be hard to keep track of everything that's going on in there as traffic comes into your station. And then in the call sign activity on the right, where you're tracking people that can hear you and that you can hear and everything else, it can get busy over there as well, and you have your message pane in the middle. And between all three of those and everything that's going on in the waterfall, it can get a little overwhelming. So JS8 Spotter is designed to let you keep better track of all of that activity, and more specifically to keep track of activity that is important to you. That's the brief overview of what Spotter is, and now I'll show you how that gets done. When you launch Spotter, let me just move this out of the way. I'll leave the link right down there in case you need it. When you launch Spotter, it first tells you, hey, you're not connected to JS8 Call, and you got to put in your settings. So let's go over the settings first. Actually, just let me move this out of the way. So number one here is the settings. So let's go over that. Up in the file menu, you can just go down to settings. These are all very straightforward, I believe. You got your call sign, your grid, and these two you can leave the way they are. This is the way it talks to JS8 Call. But you will need to go into JS8 Call and pull up the settings and go to networking. I'm sorry, no, that's not it. It's been a while since I changed this on mine. Here it is. It's under the reporting tab. So under reporting, this may look a little different in Windows or in your flavor of Linux. You're going to want to turn on the API, and you can leave these where they are with the address that you see, this 127.0.0.1, or you can set it specifically. I use a network connection, so mine's a little different maybe than what most people have, but those settings, whatever you have them at, just need to match your settings in Spotter. Okay, so I'm going to put in mine, which is that. The rest of these, if you don't know what they are, you can just leave them the way they came. Okay, and when you do set those changes, you're going to have to restart it. In Linux, you start it this way. In Windows, you're just going to double click the icon. Okay, notice that time it didn't complain about anything. So right now we are connected up with JS8 Call through the API, the application interface there for programs like this. All right, so what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, let's look at the next thing on the list. All right, the next main function here is going to be the search terms and the matched activity. Okay, so search terms in JS8 Spotter is over here on the left, matched activity is on the right. Search terms is what it's going to be searching is that every time something comes in here on the band activity pane, it'll be sent through the API to the software. And then you're able to search through that and find things that are important to you. So let me just go ahead and use the add feature here and add something. Now, one thing you can search for is call signs, obviously. That's a very popular way to use JS8 Spotter, is to keep track of people that you know or people that are in your groups. But you can put anything here. You can literally add whatever you want. So, you know, if you're looking for people that are having a QSO about tacos, you can put the word tacos in there. Or you put tacos are great. If you want only people that are talking about how good they are, you know, whatever you want, one per line, and it'll search for that text on the air, and when it finds it, it'll put it in the matched activity pane. So easy way to show you how that works is to search for heartbeats. So if you look over here in the activity pane, you see every time someone sends out a heartbeat request, all the stations respond with this text right here, heartbeat. So, when I'm testing, I'll often put in HB and heartbeat, in case anyone sends CQ, SNR, reports. All those keywords will capture a whole bunch of traffic. Normally you wouldn't do that. That's not like a normal thing to want to capture, because who cares? You already have that mess over here. But right now we want to see how it works. So I'm going to hit add batch. And by the way, if you want to add one or a batch, or if you want to import something that someone else has exported, I'll just show you the export right now. If someone exports their search terms, well, then this is how you do it, is with the add button. All right, so I just added those 4 at once, and you can see now they show up in my search terms. All right, so now over here in JS8 call, we're just going to go ahead and send out a heartbeat request, and the band is not great right now, but we're going to send it out and see who's listening. If that doesn't work, I'll send it out to a couple groups, and we'll see if we can get some traffic passed between JS8 call and JS8 Spotter. All right, so let's give it that 15 seconds here for that normal frame to pass, and then 15 more seconds to see if we get some responses. Okay, I see at least one coming in there. That's going to give us something. Okay, so let's just watch and see that activity. We'll watch in JS8 call also over here on the left in the activity pane. See how those just came up in red? Okay, 2 stations responded. Well, look at all this over here. Now what's happening here is it's capturing the word heartbeat and SNR. So that's why it's duplicated on the right here. Okay, so we got a couple different stations. Also, by the way, the software is only going to process whatever JS8 call is sending it. So JS8 call may send things more than once to the software, which is why you'll see RX activity and RX directed repeating. We just caught another response there. Must have come in at slow mode or something. And so as you can see that whatever you're searching for, it will be captured in your matched activity. Now, why is that better than just having the activity pane here in JS8 call? Well, first of all, this activity pane on the left, it can be set to expire. It can be emptied out. It can be lost for a variety of different reasons. It can go by very quickly and you might not see it, especially if 2 things come in at the same place on the waterfall. A lot of different reasons why you may miss something in JS8 call that you can keep here. And when you capture them here in JS8 Spotter, you can keep them as long as you want. They'll be in your database forever if you don't want to get rid of them. They're there for you. You can do what you want with them. And there's additional things you can do with them as well. So once they're in here, you can also notice how it says last seen. I can double click on this and get a summary for that particular item. And I can also put a comment in here. So I'm just going to show you that. When you save a comment, you see it shows up in the middle column here. It also shows up in your export. So you can see heartbeat and the word testing. It's tab separated. Likewise, when you import, you can have those items as well. Comments, also a good place to put a name if you have people's call signs and you want to remember their names. I do that. All very straightforward. So that's the search terms part on the left and also the matched activity part on the right. Let me just make sure you understand all these buttons. Remove obviously will remove an item, or if you hold shift, you can select multiple items and remove them. I already showed you export and I already showed you add. Background scanned, now that has to do, and I'll show you in just a minute, the profiles. You can have different profiles with different groups of information. Background scan means even if you're not selected on a profile, it will still scan. If you have that turned off, it'll only scan if you're selected on the profile. So I have, for example, if there's a natural disaster, a weather event, I'll have a weather profile that's not turned on unless I want it to be turned on. But I don't want to delete it or remove it or not have it. I just don't want to be scanning all the time and building up information. So if there's something specific going on, a hurricane or whatever, then I'll turn it on. Okay, and then on the matched activity side, a couple different things you can do over there. First of all, I might as well show you right now. Up in the view menu, if you don't want to see certain things, you can hide heartbeats, or you can hide, because normally you wouldn't be gathering heartbeats. That's kind of almost useless information. It's too much. So you can say, I want to hide every RX directed. That'll help remove some of the duplicates. You can hide and show different types of information. You can also set the theme to dark if you prefer that. and you can change your highlight range, meaning these items over here, if you want them to stay highlighted to see what's new, for example, if you have a very long list there and you want to just see what's new in the last hour, you can see that they'll be highlighted in red. You can also click on the top of these columns to sort. That sorting will reset when new information comes in. Just keep that in mind. And on the matched activity side, this last 100 means down here below you're going to have the latest 100 entries. You can also limit it by time. You can say I only want to see stuff from the last 24 hours or the last hour. That can be useful if there's a net going on and there's a lot of traffic on the band. You can limit this just to, instead of 100 items, I just want to see what's new in the last hour, whether it's more than 100 or not. So that's what that's for. And the filter lets you filter out specific words. It can be call signs, but it can be anything else if you want. We don't have a lot of traffic in here, but let's just say I only want to see W9FE. So I can press enter or click apply, and it will slim it down to stuff that has that keyword in it. Notice that this doesn't have to be something in your search terms. If you just want to look through your traffic there for anything else, that's fine. But it can be something in the search terms like that. And you can hit the X if you want to get rid of that. So see something that's not there. X will get rid of it. Enter, we'll put it in. Escape will also get rid of it. There you go, pretty straightforward. You can also export your matched activity log. You can either save it or copy it. That can be useful. And if you want to clear it out, you just hit this. It'll ask you if you're sure. It's going to actually delete it forever. So boom, now I've cleared that out and it can rebuild fresh new stuff. That's it right there. That's the main function of JS8 Spotter, is to help you manage the information that's important to you and keep track of it better. So that's the main benefit. Now let's dive into let's look at one more main basic thing here. I already showed you the view menu, so the last thing that we need to look at is the profiles. So as you can see, this starts with one profile, which is called default. You can add a new one, you can edit, we can rename this to contacts, for example. You can set a notification sound if you want to have a sound when something happens, when there's activity matched for that particular profile. So there you go. It's still building because we have these basic. It's going to capture tons of junk with these. So, all right. So I've just renamed it. That's the rename. You can edit it. You can remove, but you can't remove if you've only got one. So obviously I'm not going to be able to remove the selected profile because there's only one profile. But let's make a new one. This is also very straightforward. I'll just call it test, no sound. Now I have two profiles. Test has nothing in it. Contacts has some stuff in it. So I'm going to add something in here, just test. Now you see this has its own set of search terms. I'll turn off background scan for that and turn it on for contacts. So you can see that that's per profile. So profiles, I feel like that makes perfect sense. Let's add one more and call this friends or something. Or you could name it after your group if you want. Just to show you the sort profiles options. So here, if you know, I want friends to be on the top and test to be on the bottom in this list here, I can do that. Also, you know, when you restart the software, it's going to start on the one you left on. And that's about it for the profiles. So let's take a real quick look, just to reminder on where we're at on this. I'll show you the help menu and then we'll just dive into the subsystems. Okay. All right. Help is up here. Quick help. This is nothing more than something to read if you like to read. Again, there's the videos if you want to watch those. There's a PDF manual that's available on kf7mx.com. But if you just have a quick question about some feature, it'll be in here. So again, that's the help menu and quick help. All right, so let's talk now about some of the subsystems. This is cool. It's cool to be able to capture traffic and manage traffic and keep track of things better, so you don't have just one giant mess. But there's a lot of other features, and I'm going to go ahead and close this and maybe load up my current database, which is a little bit more overwhelming, to show you the expect system and the forms system. So let's just close this and get the... Oops, we don't need that. I'm going to fire up my database. Oops. All right, here it is with my database file. You notice that this already has a lot more stuff in it. You see I've got a ton of stuff in my contacts. a lot of different groups that I participate in, something for weather events. I currently had it turned on, probably doesn't need to be on. But you see, like, just for example, this was turned on, weather. So there's stuff that people have in here, like you can double click on these and see wind direction, and people are given different reports. WD5EED gives weather reports if you send them WX question mark, so it's capturing that. So information about weather reports, different things. And again, everything that happens on the air is public, right? So you can capture traffic that goes on the air. It doesn't have to be directed at your station or anything like that. You can capture whatever you want. So you can see I've captured a bunch of also call signs with WX in it. You see I've got my search terms are like wind, storm. WX might be a little too broad because it's capturing call signs as well. Emergency, I can double click on one of these and see, information, people talking about emergencies. So that's the power of the profiles. It's kind of a cool thing. I have one called Alert, that if there's something I'm trying to keep track of, I don't normally have notification sounds, but I have an alert profile with a sound. So if I don't want to miss someone when they hop on the air, I might turn that on. Those are different types of uses. You can use your imagination, use it for whatever you want. Mostly I use it for keeping track of friends and groups and events, but you can just use it for information gathering or however you want to do. But yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked because of new information in the database here. Let's talk about expect. Apart from gathering information, you might want to also send additional information. So if you're familiar with JS8 call, you know that people can send you requests for information about your station. They can send info ? Or status ? Or grid ? And those are in the settings. You can tell your station how to respond to that. So station info. So if they send info ? It's going to send this string. If they send status ? It'll send that string. If they send grid ? It'll send this string. But it's very limited. You only have a few things that are commands that you can process with your station. JS8 Spotter adds a whole new system for commands. It's called expect, or the expect subsystem. And the theory there is that your software is expecting a certain request and it will respond with a certain response. It's a programming term, expect and respond or expect and reply, or can't remember exactly. But it's a programming term. I expect this, I'm going to give this in response. So let's look at how that works. Now I've got a bunch of stuff in mind already, but let's just start with a new one. So I'm going to hit add. And here's how you add the entry. This is a little different from the previous versions. In 1.17, this has been updated to be a little cleaner and to have new features. So first is text to expect. So, and I'll show you exactly how that works here real quick. But let's just say we want to test a test. So I'm going to put in test. This will all be made capitalized in a second, but let's just do it like that. All right, and now I get to decide how's my station going to respond. Okay, well, let's say it's test. I'm going to say it worked. Allowed call signs, that can be star means any individual station. You can also add groups. So let's add a group. Let's add sitrep. At sitrep, okay? That's a group that I'm a part of. Herc is another one, but whatever group, if you want the group to be able to request this and your station to automatically respond, okay, you can do that. Maximum replies, 99 is infinite. I don't have much use for this, but let's say for some reason you wanted to only have it answer a few times. You don't want your station going crazy with people requesting stuff. You can set a limit there, and after it responds, say 5 times, then it'll stop responding. That's totally up to you. Auto transmit schedule. This is new in version 1.17. This is comma separated. You put in hours and minutes, and your station will automatically send out the text to respond with at those times. You put up to 12 times in a day for each of these statements. Basically, let's say at 0600 hours, I want it to send this out to either one call sign or one group. So let's say to sitrep. Okay, it's going to send it out to sitrep at 6 in the morning. Just try to send it out. Now there are caveats to that, and I read the manual if you have more questions, but for example, the API gives me no way to check if JS8 call is ready to send, for example. It might be in the middle of something and it won't actually get send. But it gives you the opportunity to try. And if you're worried about it not sending, you just put a comma here and say, I'm going to resend it at 6:05 because I'm paranoid, and have it send twice. No big deal. You can do that. JS8 bands, as you can see, aren't so busy that it's going to be a problem. I think that would be an excellent problem if we had so much traffic on the bands that we could complain about auto transmissions like this, especially if you can find a good use for them in your work with your different groups. Great, awesome. If it becomes a problem, well, then we'll deal with that, but it's not currently a problem at all. We need more usage of the bands, not less. No, there's nothing to preserve there. So I'm going to save that. And now you see it's in here as test. All right, you can see what to expect and how it will respond. Well, how does that work? And it's a little hard for me to demonstrate with just my station, but here's what it would do. Let's say I knew my friend had that statement saved on his expect system. Maybe my whole group has it. Well, I would say, let's see, Carlos is someone here that I met recently on his Zoom meeting that's weekly. That's listed at kf7mix.com if you go to the JS8 call groups list. But let's say I wanted to check up with his station. For the expect system, you would do E question mark. That's how you always start it. Space, and then the word that he would expect, which for this one was test. So that's the format right there. Call sign or group, E question mark, and then the word. Make sense? I hit enter. It sends that. His station would pick that up and automatically respond. I think recently he had this form saved. Let's see if he still has it. Getting ahead, but I'm sending out an expect statement and waiting for see if his station will auto reply to that. So I sent E question mark F104, F exclamation 104. So let me just, while that's sending, I'll go back here to the expect system, talk a little bit more about it. So again, if I would send E question mark test, if someone sent that to me, my station will respond with it worked. Now the way you can use that is there's many ways you can use that. You can use it to store forms, which we'll talk about in a minute. You can use it to store like a list of commands. For example, I have a bunch of commands that are available. If someone says E question mark CMDS commands, then my station will reply automatically with a list of commands. Looks like you didn't have that stored, but not a big deal. I didn't plan anything for that. For example, if someone wants to know what kind of antenna I'm using, they could send E question mark antenna, and I could put a lot more detail about my antenna in there if I want. My QTH, how the weather is at my QTH, the groups that I'm a part of, my status, which status could mean not just like station information. It could be if there's some sort of event and I want to, or if I'm out of town, I don't know, anything, whatever you want, it could be in there. Info has a URL. I've also got one for my website. So if someone sends E question mark URL, it'll return automatically my URL directed at the station that requested it or the group, if a group is allowed. My email address. You want my email address? You can get it on the air. No big deal. You know, hopefully no one's scanning this and trying to whatever. You can get it on QRZ as well. It's not a secret. Not a big deal. So that's all in here. Easy to find, hopefully easy to understand from that brief information. If you need more information, again, the old videos are there. The manual is there as well, or you can contact me on QRZ. But that's the expect subsystem. So let me just show you the buttons one more time. You can add, which gives you a blank. You can double click on a line, which lets you add it or edit the existing expect statement. It also gives you a report of any time this was sent out. So if a station requested it, for example, this is a report, KN4AM requested it at this time, and my station attempted to send it. Again, the API doesn't give me any way to know if that sending worked, but at least I can record that it was attempted. It also will record auto transmissions. You can see my station sends this one out 3 times a day, and so it's going to record those auto transmissions. So you have a record of it. Important for ham radio, right, to keep a log. So that's all logged in here within each entry. Okay. Send now. Now, if I highlight one of these, let's say I want to send it out to somebody. Forms are a great example of this. If I want to send it out right now without waiting for someone to request it, I can. So I'll click send now. It will remember the last thing I entered here, and I'm going to send it as a message. Now it's formulating everything that needs to be sent right there. It's in the right format for JS8 call. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit send, and you can see over here that it's now sending it. It's going to attempt to send that to the group. So you can do that from any of these expect statements. I could, if I want to send randomly my commands out, I could do that. I could send it to the group. I could send it to all call or whatever you want. And that's how you do that there. is the Send Now button. Edit will do the same thing as double clicking. Delete will remove an entry. Let's remove this test entry. Very straightforward. Export will export it in a tab delimited format. This is great if you have a group and you want to have if you all want to share a consistent set of expect statements so you know how each other's stations work. You can export it and share it via email or whatever. You can save this file and transfer it around. And then later you can import it. You could technically type in your expect stuff here too, but again, it's tab delineated and you've got to get the format right and everything. So ideally the import button is for people who have previously exported. If you want to make a backup of your expect statements, you can do that as well. So that's it. That's expect in a nutshell and how it works. All right, so let me just close expect for now. And that's still sending there. See, no big deal. All right, so the next system to look at, the next main system in JS8 Spotter is forms. So people have had questions in the past about, well, how can we fit forms like ICS forms into JS8 call? Well, you can't. ICS forms are massive, and you shouldn't be sending them over JS8 call unless you really have nothing better to do. There's much better ways to send those. Send them over MFSK or WinLink, definitely. I mean, WinLink is a way better tool for those. It's built in already. It's faster. It's much higher bandwidth. You can see my message was captured by 2 people over there, so that's great. So yeah, so forms though. Just because you can't have ICS forms, which are free form, you can punch in anything you want. It can be as long as you want. You could have paragraphs of information and photos and everything else. Just because you can't have that doesn't mean you can't have forms at all. So MC forms really stands for microforms, or originally it was multiple choice forms. Microforms is more appropriate now because it's not limited to just multiple choice. So let's take a look at a form real quick. One that I use a lot is the sitrep basic check-in form, and it's a good example because it has different types of information. So you see that these are forms. Well, let me just show you how they work. If you go into the forms folder that comes with your program, a form is just a text file that's set up in a certain way so that it can be converted into something nice to look at. So that's what it looks like. And I would encourage you to read in that folder the documentation. But that text file gets converted into this sort of appearance so that you can enter the information in a multiple choice fashion. Current status, well, all my operations are normal. If they weren't, I could mark that. Situation, I got nothing to report. Awareness, nothing to report. There's different options in these. I could add other relevant information, my state code, etc. I've already filled this out in the past though, so I'm going to click Load Posted Expect Form, because normally when you fill this out and you click Post Form to Expect, well, I guess I'll just do the whole process here. Okay, I'm in Missouri, EM48AT, and it's going to start filling in my comment down there with that information from up here. If you want to read if you really want to understand forms, you need to read the documentation. If you just want to use them, it's easy enough to just go down the list and fill it in and not ask any questions. But it's very well documented in the PDF file on kf7mix.com. For allowed, I'm going to put sitrep, because that's the group that uses the form 104, and I'm going to hit post. Okay, it's telling me that, hey, it's going to post it to the expect system. If you've already got something in there, it's going to override it. I'm going to hit yes. Now it's asking me if I want to transmit it immediately. This is for convenience, so it'll bring up, if I say yes, it'll bring up this exact same screen, that you saw before, which is send now. I'm going to hit cancel on that. And now let's go into the expect system. So I just filled in form 104, that's why it's at the top. The newest is at the top. And you can see it stores your form answers in the expect system for people to retrieve later. So anyone from any individual or anyone from the sitrep group or that uses the sitrep group call sign can request this form from my station by sending E!F!104. It's form 104. And it'll send the response. All right, it's pretty straightforward, but it's connected to the expect system. Likewise, if I go into forms and I try to fill out 104 again, I can also load my last answers, just like that. So I clicked load posted expect form. Then I don't have to fill in those things over and over the same. If they haven't changed, then I can just reload it. So likewise with any other form. Let's see if I have any other forms. Another one I use a lot is the 4SQRP. And it looks a little different. Each form is custom, you know. Again, it's just a text file. You can make your own forms. You can submit them to me if you want them. If you think they're good and you think they should be part of the program to begin with, I can add them. But I'll load what I had before. And you see how it filled everything in? What's your current transmit power, what rig you're using, and the weather. So I can just grab that. 4SQRP usually asks a question, and that goes into the comments section. I can fill in the new answer for the week's net, update my weather, and then hit post. And it will overwrite the previous one. So that's MC Forms in a nutshell. It's a way to create forms, fill in forms, share them with groups, or store them for others to find later. There's emergency forms built in. It's different types of surveys and group. There's specific group forms for some of the groups that are out there. You can make your own custom forms and just drop them in the folder. These, if you see this 103, 4, and 304 in your settings, you're going to recognize that those are your primary forms. You can change your primary forms. If you want to have different forms in this part of the list that are easy to get to, you can add them there. Not a problem. Real easy. So that's how forms work in here. And then on the other side of that, if someone sends you a form, if your station happens to retrieve a form, it will be captured in the form responses automatically. JS8 Spotter, if it sees a form over the air, it's going to capture it and save it. Doesn't matter if it's directed to you or anything like that, it'll save it. So here's the list of form responses. I get a lot of sitrep responses. None of these are secret. Keep it in mind that these are all sent over the air. So it is what it is. It's public information. If I want to filter this down to certain things, I can filter out duplicates. I can do it by time or just view certain types of form. If I just want the sitrep forms, I can choose that. If I just want the, let's see, anything that's in your forms, there's just the 4SQRP forms, right? So you can double click on one of these because you see it just has the codes for the answers they provided. So let's actually go to the 4SQRP thing and look at one of those. I can double click on one of these and it'll show me a report. See, it's showing the actual answers. And this is in a text format, so you can bring it out of the program and save it somewhere and do what you want with it. You can also right click on it if you really just want to see it in that same format that you filled it in. And you can see, you know, who it's to, who it's from, what their comment was, and all the information there. So this is how you work with the forms you've retrieved. There's import and export, which are hopefully by this point fairly straightforward. And forward. Forward's interesting. So I can, let's go back to the full list here. Let's say I retrieve this form, but I think other people in the group may have missed it. I can hit forward, and I can send it to a call sign or a group. So now it's going to actually forward that to the group from KN4AM. It'll look like a relay, which is kind of interesting. So it'll be saved almost like a relay would be on the target stations or group. But that's how you forward, how you'd forward that to a call sign or group. Again, that's a manual action. The last thing to look at here with this viewing the forms or the form responses is the gateway. So if you want to know about the gateway is a way for, let's say you have a group that has members that have an internet connection. This gateway can automatically forward form responses to the internet to be saved in a gateway. It does require a little bit of programming, but I have got code available, and it's not hard. It requires, a web server somewhere to capture it. Again, I can make things available for groups if they need or want it. If you need help with that, just contact me. But it's basically, ham radio is awesome, but it's not the only thing out there. And if you're part of an emergency group, you use every form of communication, not just ham radio. Ham radio is something you should be skilled at, obviously. I'm a proponent of that, but it's not the only thing in the world. You should use every form that's available, and this basically links up ham radio with the internet. So if I received a form, I could have a group of 1,000 people, and if 500 of them still have the internet working today, then they could receive it instantly. So it's just a way to kind of expand the reach of the forms. And if you think about the purpose of things like ICS forms or emergency response forms, of course you want the internet in that mix. It would be an absolute waste not to try. And that's pretty much it for forms. For the shallow dive into that, more information's in the manual, but that only leaves other items. So let's go over these other items that are in the program. JS8 Spotter has a few other features. They're mostly in the tools menu. I think they're all in the tools menu. First is the simple offline map. Surprise, it is exactly what it's called. It's a simple offline map. It does not use the internet at all. It is not impressive. It doesn't do much, but it'll show you things like the latest 50 stations that you captured information for based on age, or based on their signal. You can show the color based on age or signal strength. You can change these values. So if I want the latest, I just want the last 10 and I want to see who's the strongest. You can see those real quick. These colors, you can change them using a palette file in the maps folder. So there are some tricks you can do. You can double click on these and it'll draw a line between them. You can also click on a quadrant of the map and it will zoom into that quadrant of the map. It's low tech. It's very low tech. But my intention here is for this program to run on very minimal hardware, if possible, to keep as few external dependencies out from in the program as possible as well. So I haven't included any Python has a lot of libraries for mapping and doing fancy things. I don't really want a lot of external dependencies. May add them in the future, I don't know. But for now, I just use this. Real easy map. You can see very roughly where people are at and kind of how your station is reaching. Maybe good for propagation information, things like that. That's the simple off. Oh, let me show you one more thing. It does have currently, it has a few different areas that are in there: North America, Europe, Australia, Indonesia, and then Africa. So if you need more, if you need some other region, I could possibly add it. You could actually add it yourself, although that's a non-trivial task. But that's the offline map. Visualize the waterfall activity. So this is only going to be useful if you've been gathering activity. If I leave my station on all the time so I can see a fair amount of activity. It shows me where people have been transmitting on the waterfall real quick so that I can say, well, look, this gap right here above 1,000 isn't used that often. I'll put my marker there and use that spot for a while. It's just a way to see where the band is being used. You can put in a custom frequency if you use something that's non-standard. You can say, I only want to know in the last hour, what are people using? Not much, the band is not busy. In the last 8 hours, and again, I can try to find a spot on there. Now, the spot that you're on might be, it's not like you're reserving a spot, right? So other people are going to be using the slot you're on the waterfall. That's fine, don't worry about it too much. It doesn't matter that much. JS8 calls great at people overlapping a little bit. So, but if you really feel like you need a less busy spot, this is how you would find it. ComStat. So ComStat1 is software that's used by Amron Group for reports. Some people in the past have expressed difficulty in installing that software, so I just built in some of the features of ComStat pardon me, to this, so you can say you can see situation reports that have been received, just like you would with kind of the MC forms. It's just in the ComStat format. It's their specific situation reports. You can send a status report, and it starts out with green, and you can fill these in, and it'll put it in their format for ComStat1, and you can send it, and people who have ComStat1 will receive it as if you had ComStat1. So it's a way to participate in that ComStat activity without having ComStat installed. I have nothing against ComStat. I hope that it gets updated and improved and easier to install for people, and maybe eventually we can take this out. But for now, it's serving a need, so I'm going to leave it in there. And let's see. There's also a ComStat check-in, which is a little bit different format. See, so you'll see that the format that it's sending in is a little bit different. Now, if you don't want to gather ComStat forms, you can go to your settings, and you'll see this ComStat group. You can leave it blank, and then it won't capture those ComStat forms. If you don't care at all about them, you can just make that blank. and it's not going to gather these for this received section. I don't mind seeing them, so I leave it turned on. It also, you can set a specific group there if you want. If you're part of a Comstat group, but you don't want to gather all the groups, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you only want to gather your group's information, you can set it there as well. All right, APRS is the next thing. So if you're not familiar with APRS and JS8 call, there are connections between the APRS gateway and JS8 call, and I'm not an expert on those, but I know that there are formatted messages you can send over the air. They'll be picked up by other stations and forwarded on to the APRS system. So if you want to send an SMS text, for example, which does still work, you just have to register your phone number to receive them at the link that's shown right here. You can do that. So if you punch in a phone number and a message, oops, it'll format it the way it needs to be for that to go through over the air. Likewise, it's the same thing for email. You can send an email through APRS. You can send an APRS message or report your grid to the APRS system, which is pretty straightforward. These are shortcuts, so you don't have to remember those formats with all the spaces and whatnot to let you do it. If you want to do Parks on the Air, it's got it, so you just punch it in, and it'll format it for you, and you can send it on through JS8 call. So those are for your convenience if you use APRS. Great for emergencies as well, because if you want to send a text and you have no service, but you can do JS8, and your person you're sending to is registered to receive it, then that'll work right there. So last thing is these little database commands. I've skipped over some of these things that are very straightforward, I hope. Pause reply, pause auto transmissions, disable sounds, a block list. The date code, let me give you this information too. You see right here on these responses, well actually that's decoded already, but you'll see in the expect system, you see how this has the pound HUNL or I don't have any other ones saved, HHKE. That's a date code. So if you're just curious about what that is, this will help you either encode the current date and time or decode it. It's a low resolution. It's a 2-minute resolution. So anyway, long story short, that's what the date code's for. You can use it for other purposes as well, other applications. But last thing is database search and trim. Database search is going to search through any table in the database. Like if you're curious to have anything with the word antenna in the expect system, it's going to bring up whatever's in the database for that. Do what you want with it. I don't know, if you want to pull things out of your database, have at it. Same with activity. Hurricane, is the word hurricane in there? Yeah, it turns out it is. It's in there a lot. So if I wanted to pull out all the instances of the word hurricane from my activity, matched activity database, my signal database, I'm just going to pull everything out of that. Well, that's the wrong one. I'm doing it wrong. I don't know what's in there actually. Okay, this has the grids and their call signs. Okay, all right, well, let's just say this. Everyone in EM, and I can pull all that out. That'll show me I'm seeing the strength of their signal, the date and time, and their call sign and their grid. And then you could do whatever you want with that data. So that search is just to search through the database. And trim, it's going to do what it tells you right in this warning. It says make a backup of your database file. It's going to cut out all your content that's older than 6 months. That's if you want to speed up, the software. For some reason it's running slow. I let mine build up and it doesn't seem to have a problem. But if you feel like you want it trimmed, that's how you do it. And those are all the kind of core functions of JS8 Spotter. You can download that on kf7mix.com. Read the manual in PDF format that's on there and watch the other videos on my channel if you want kind of a more in-depth or an even longer video than this one. They're available and there's a lot of them. So hope you enjoy it. And if you have questions, contact me with my information on QRZ.